On this week's show, we are discussing the Call of Duty back catalogue coming to Game Pass, maybe. Did PlayStation and Ubisoft confirm their summer showcases? Some huge day one releases for PlayStation Plus, and finally a Batman game that turned into a Lord of the Rings game. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all the week's gaming news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV and up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. This week, your players are myself, Rob, Chris.
Good game, everyone.
And Richie. How are you both doing?
Hello, everyone. Pretty good. How are you?
Very, very well. The sun is shining a little bit. When I wake up in the morning, it's not pitch dark, which is pretty cool. For any US listeners,
I actually got blinded by the light as I woke up.
Blinded by the light.
It's just the way the sun went past my windows, because I had my blinds open, it was searing into my retinas. When your eyes.
I feel like you're exaggerating this somewhat. Searing into your retinas.
Yes.
Maybe a little. I'm exaggerating a little bit for dramatic effect.
You do get out and see the sun.
Yeah, I'm like Cyclops now. I've got laser eyes because of the sun.
See, what you need to do is invest in some blackout blinds. The best thing you can ever buy in the summer.
Yeah.
That's what I swear by them.
Yeah. But house decor tips aside, we do have a great show lined up for you guys this week. Before we get into it, obviously, the usual housekeeping. If you're not subscribed, if you're not set up for alerts, and if you're not liking everything about GamerGuildTV like you see popped out on socials, on Discord, everywhere else, make sure you do that right now, please. Again, we're on Discord, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. Make sure you give all them a like, because it really does help just give those algorithms a little signal that we're doing some interesting stuff and more people should see it. We've also got the merchandise store where you can pick up some GamerGuild kind of merch, also some retro. I think it'll be retro now. Sounds of Stadia merch. I don't know what the cut-off for retro is, but I feel like it's.
If it's dead, I think you can draw a line under and see it's never coming back. It's never coming back.
You never know. The Sounds of Stadia podcast may return one day.
Maybe. See what Google has in the pipeline. And also make sure to join us for our weekly live streams. This week you guys played Hot Wheels Unleashed 2, if I'm not mistaken.
We did, yeah. We really enjoyed it. We've played it on the channel before with the first entry in the franchise, and we were just expecting more of the same, and that's pretty much what it was, with a couple of different game modes. So there was a battle arena mode now. There was collect all the gears in kind of a race to see who can gather up the most things. A couple more maps, typical things like museum, playing at the park, and an arcade, but just fun kind of kart racing action, I would say. You enjoyed it as well, Richie?
I did, and it's nice that it was free on Game Pass, but it was so much more the same, to be honest. I don't know why it needs to exist. They could have just probably kept going with Hot Wheels Unleashed, because Hot Wheels Unleashed isn't that old of a game.
Yeah, we commented during the stream, didn't we? It felt like these two came out back to back so quickly. I think the first one had maybe an unexpected success. They were just trying to capitalize on churning out another one. But I agree with you. It could have just had more content and more maps added, because graphically it's just toy cars, so they're not pushing the boundaries like Forza and Gran Turismo, but fun all the same. But you're right, unnecessary.
The counterpoint to that, though, for me is the fact that we played it is because it was a new game, where if it wasn't and they just kept adding to Hot Wheels Unleashed, we probably wouldn't have played it. So there's an argument in that case. Because it's new, it's got people interested again if the player base is slowly decaying.
Yeah, I'd imagine with the track creator and stuff as well, the assets are quite easy to flip for new areas and new maps and stuff. But it did feel a bit when we were playing it, it's almost like monetized / microtransacted to all hell with packs and skins for your car and different track things, and it got a bit multi-layered very quickly.
I didn't find them too intrusive though, because after we played for a couple of hours, we both went back into the store and just with the points that were acquired from playing, unlocked quite a few different bits.
Absolutely.
So if you're playing, it feels like unlocking stuff is quite achievable.
Yeah, the biggest shame though was from the first game, none of your cars carry over. So like when we played the first game, I had like the Batmobile, the Mystery Machine from Scooby Doo, and a bunch of other cool like other cars, and then they're just non-existent in the second game. So it's almost like it's a shame you couldn't carry the assets over. Right? Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's sold well. It's definitely a Game Pass title by today's standards. But we had fun all the same, and shout out to all the wonderful folks who jumped in the community. Louise in particular putting us to the test and basically won every race that he was in. So it was like, great, thanks for coming along.
That sounds about right.
There is the podium.
I think I beat him once or twice, but he's definitely better than me.
Yeah.
I mean, on the subject of Hot Wheels, Chris, knowing your kind of inclination to kind of collect nostalgic items, do you have any physical Hot Wheels laying around in your loft or your parents' house?
I don't. Probably my parents' house, if anything. Me and my brother did go through a big phase of collecting them, but we always used to take them with the packets and ruin them and stuff. And I think,
then like blast them over the loop.
Play with them.
Yeah, like yeah, pretty much. Just what the purpose was. I think I said on the stream like we were more into micro machines. I think there's just something cool about them. Ironically enough, the Hot Wheels in the game are small. Like the fun element is because it's miniatures in a real world, and in real life we preferred micro machines, which were smaller cars in a mini world. So and I lamented my disappointment at the Micro Machines V3 reboot that happened about 6-7 years ago. That was a missed opportunity as well because the PS1 game was fire.
Yeah, it was. I wonder if that was why we were more interested in Micro Machines, because I was the same as a kid. I think I played it on the Sega Mega Drive or something, the original Micro Machines game, and it was awesome.
So good.
The remake, when they try to bring it back in game form, like the one you were disappointed in, that's what Hot Wheels Unleashed is the game that should have been.
Yeah. Remember when you discovered the tank-fired peas out of it? It was like, oh, that was cool.
Okay, so aside from Hot Wheels, Chris, is there anything else that's been on your kind of gaming smorgasbord this week?
Yes, I'm in between big games at the moment. I'm dabbling whether to jump back into The Witcher or Cyberpunk, so like that's my next kind of intention, while I chip away at democracy and peace and freedom, of course, in Helldivers 2. That's pretty much my daily game now. I'll always try and get 1 or 2 games in with random people. It doesn't really matter. I'm just jumping in and saving Super Earth, quite frankly, so it doesn't matter.
We've got a big order on this weekend as well.
We do, yes. We've got to get to it. Got to get to the majors.
There's one more planet to take before we defeat the atomic.
I think something's going to happen. I said to Richie last week, Easter weekend, I was expecting like a big push for like a long 4-day weekend. Nothing happened, so I'm like, it's getting close to bursting. But other than that, I checked out the Stellar Blade demo that dropped. So Stellar Blade comes out later on this month. I think it's like 22nd of April. This is the game from like a South Korean studio. It's the first foray into AAA. And the demo's available on PlayStation 5. It's an exclusive. Don't know if it's timed or not. I think it was originally due for Xbox One, PS4 and PC, and then at some point PlayStation have swooped in, took its exclusivity. It was called Paradise Eve originally, and it's been rebranded into Stellar Blade now. So you've probably seen it before but didn't realise it was the same thing. Checked out the demo. It was about 45 minutes, I'd say, long. But in terms of the gameplay, absolutely gorgeous, like visually, from the first 4 rates. I think
what do you mean in the character there?
I mean, there's things to be said about that. The internet is definitely going to salivate over this game for many reasons other than the gameplay and the story. But yeah, gameplay is super fun. Actually, interesting enough, starts off very Helldivers-esque, where you're coming in from these spaceships in hellpods, essentially. All goes to shit. You end up on a beach. It's basically you and your other soldier friend, both women, both females. But they're like kind of like have like these like cyber suit mech suits that make them super warriors. Okay. And shit's popping off. There's these grotesque creatures on the beach, and basically you're progressing to what is the ruins of a past Earth. But in terms of it, it's got gameplay, I would say, akin to Final Fantasy. That's pretty much all I can compare it to, like Final Fantasy 16 with like a cyber skin over the whole lot of it. Yeah, but it looks great, plays great. I've thoroughly enjoyed the demo. There's some interesting boss fights. I've seen a lot of people say it's Souls-like or closer to Sekiro. Now, I played it on story mode, and I didn't feel like there was that much of a difficulty push in terms of like parrying and rolling, which there are elements of the gameplay, but on story mode, it just felt like I was fighting.
If you don't play on story mode, if you play on maybe an action focus mode, it might be akin to a Souls game, but they've put a difficulty slider in there,
which is what we've always asked for. Yeah. I know you and me, Richie, in particular, have been like, I don't have time to die 50,000 times to enjoy this.
I don't find that aspect of Souls games fun, but these are interesting worlds and the basic mechanics are fun. I just don't like the crushing difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like that term's getting overused now, though. That's like kind of
it
Souls.
Is, yeah.
Souls-like game. It's like any game that doesn't have like an automatic block and dodge function, like seems like to get that label.
Yeah. Well, that was my initial take. Like when what was putting me off is a lot of the podcasts I've listened to in the last week or so have been saying like, oh, it's very Souls-like, it's got this, and I'm like, and then I checked the demo and I was like,
does well though.
Yeah, but then in my head I was like, when I finished playing, I was like, it just felt like Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
Like you've got rolls,
like
you've got
anything that doesn't
combos,
have like a button prompt for like a dodge or something. You know, like the way like Batman does or Spider-Man has like a visual prompt to dodge. It seems like that's the label, like that's the criteria now almost.
Yeah, so I can see on like with the boss fights and stuff, I can completely see how that it would be echoed in those sentiments. But on story mode, for me, it just felt closer to Final Fantasy 16 with a sci-fi skin and some great jiggle physics.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
The great
jiggle
It's gonna
physics.
get cancelled.
not the jiggle physics. But I was like, because the trailers, the main character looks very overly sexualized. Is that how it feels when you're playing it?
Not
Or is it
really,
just
because it's straight into like she's a warrior, she's got a friend with her. There's like grotesque monsters to fight. You get eventually like it's not really spoilers because it's the first 40 minutes. You get like a sidekick. Human who talks you through like a little robot companion who kind of floats like the ghost from Destiny with you, who kind of like points out like we should go this direction. He kind of takes you through the tutorial. This is the battery. You need these batteries to open certain doors. There's things in this area. This is how you fight this type of enemy. So he kind of like holds your hand. So you might become lesser as the game goes on. But yeah, it's just great exploration. I think it opens up from after the demo ends, interesting enough, with the final boss fight. When you defeat him, it goes straight into a trailer for the rest of the game to like promote the rest of it. And I thought I was still playing after this boss fight. I was like, what is this weird jarring cut that happened? And then I'm bashing like block or something like that. And it's like, oh wait, this isn't me. I'm in a different outfit now. And then I realised it was just a summary of like what's to come straight to the game store. But yeah, I'd say if you're on the fence with this one, check out the demo. Like that's the purpose of it. And I think Richie in particular, I think this could be right up your street after you wrap up with Rebirth.
Potentially, yeah. This is what I was trying to figure out. Is it a case of whoever made this game was incredibly horny the entire time?
Oh, yes.
Or was it just when it came to making the trailer, it was some horny marketing exec cutting the trailer and just emphasised the assets?
I mean, like,
more so than the game
seems
actually
to have
does.
forgot that like sex sells, right? Like,
It does, but yeah.
that eternal rule still hasn't went anywhere really.
It's absolutely true, but yeah.
Yeah. So
It wasn't displeasing to play, I'll say that much.
Yeah, fair enough. Richie, on the subject of next games for you, what have you been playing the past week?
I have finally rolled credits on Rebirth.
Hey.
What's your out of 10, I guess?
That's difficult, to be honest. It's probably lower than it was when I started because the game is insanely long. Like
Okay.
it is. I'm rolling credits after like 80 hours. And there's
Jesus.
still huge parts of the open world there's a few areas that I've barely touched on, like in the open world. It's just long, so it is a bit long drawn out. It doesn't feel that the story doesn't feel long and drawn out because I was enjoying it the whole time. There's parts of the narrative that do get a bit messy. I don't really want to go into detail because of spoilers, because it's kind of anything I would say will potentially spoil it. It would be huge spoilers. Some of the things that I didn't necessarily like about the story.
Okay.
I'm not talking about spoilers for the original Final Fantasy VII.
Right,
I'm
okay.
talking about spoilers
Understood.
specific to Rebirth.
Okay. Yeah, I can
Which-
see that
yeah.
kind of rubbing people the wrong way.
It's not so much as these deviations. The same kind of plot lines are majorly there. There's a few things that move the order around. Things like you don't go to certain areas in this game that you would have done before some events. But I think that's just because they're chopping up a game into 3 pieces, and they've got to like figure it out in a way that makes sense as a standalone experience as well, without having too many like plot threads just left lying wide open to wait for like another 4 or 5 years or something for the next one. But it'd be interesting to see how the last game like resolves everything. But it does feel like a middle chapter of a story where there's some stuff that I'm like not sure I like this or not, but depending how they resolve it in the next game could be great, could be terrible. So
yeah, I always find like the second thing in any trilogy is always like a big hit or miss type of thing.
yeah,
Really, it can either be seen like this like point like meandering bridge to the conclusion that everyone wants,
Yeah.
or it can like be it can do like the Two Towers thing and arguably be the best element of it. But
If
seems
I had to
like
stick a number on it, I'd say it's probably an 8, but that 8 could easily go up to 9 or 10, depending how it's resolved in the final game, or could drop to like a 7.
yeah. I mean, we've talked
I
about this, haven't we?
100% think it's worth playing though. Like
Yeah, like this is
the
the
gameplay
issue.
is
Like
incredible. So
when you look at these games like in isolation, it's kind of doing the service it needs, because you'd hope that like the 3 titles will be bigger than the sum of its parts.
yeah, it's some of the plot points that started working on in the final act of the game aren't really resolved yet because they're not meant to be resolved yet. So it's going to be interesting. But I'm definitely still on board for the next game, and I'm still enjoying playing it. I've just now went back to started doing some cleanup in the open world sections.
Yeah, I mean, I'm considering playing the first in the series simply because I'm at a point now where like I need like a new game.
Yeah.
So Chris, I'm very much like you. I'm still chipping away at Helldivers, like when I have like an odd, I don't know, half hour just to do a mission or something. But I've rolled credits on the main Witcher story now, and there's like I did like a not stupid thing, but I went into like the DLC early, and then like hyper leveled Geralt, so he just kind of put ribbons through the entire main story. So I need to go back and do the DLC. But yeah, I'm looking for another title, and I think I'm like you, Chris. I'm considering going back to Cyberpunk, just because of the press it's got with all like the different changes and updates and stuff like that.
Did you ever play Phantom Liberty?
No,
well?
I never touched it.
That was my draw.
I was going to, but then like that 2.0 update dropped as well, and I was like, I should probably play the full thing again. Seems I've lost my save because it was on Stadia.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's either that or it's Final Fantasy 7. Not quite sure which yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think Cyberpunk's a good choice. I think now it's like a complete package as they move on to The Witcher 4. And I don't think we really know anything. Like, there's some stuff we're going to talk about in the news that if it comes out this year, like that's my next big like tentpole hype cycle about to begin. We obviously have Hellblade 2 coming up in May, so probably just short of a month now until we get to play that. So I kind of have this like 30-day window to fill with something, but yeah, I guess I still just need to. If not, I'll just stare at my game collection and what to play, and then I'll just default back to Helldivers and FIFA, most likely.
Exactly right. That's like the modus operandi. But who knows? There might be something interesting coming.
Yeah, the thing with Hellblade for me is it comes out on the 21st of May. I go on holiday on the 20th, so I'm gonna have to wait till I get home from holiday to play.
Oh, we'll play it for you, and then wax lyrical about it. Which game did you miss out on last year because you went away? Was it Star Wars?
I think
something happened.
Star Wars
was
because
it Final
of
Fantasy
else.
16?
It might have been Final Fantasy. I was playing Final Fantasy 7 before I went on holiday because I decided I wanted to do a replay before going into Rebirth, and then Rebirth got delayed, but I'd already started playing it again. But the reason I didn't play Star Wars is because I was playing Zelda.
Right.
So these were all happening roughly around about the same time. But I haven't played Jedi Survivor yet. That is very much still on my list of games I want to play.
Such a tough life we lead.
Yeah. You got to make choices, and I went for Zelda, you went Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? By the time you get back, Richard, there may be some pretty big titles being announced. And with that, I think it's time we jump into the news. So, Chris, can you introduce us to the
graciously gathered Gamer Guild Gazette, a.k.a. The news.
As always, the news is brought to you by our special guild heroes. Everyone in that kind of community contributes just a little bit more to the channel and gives us kind of a boost up to help us create content, help us pay for daft subscriptions that distribute the podcast in certain places, and everyone who does that, we're really, really thankful like you do. Just like to flag 2 people this episode, and that is Tomoy Tom. Let's go with that. So I'm so sorry for butchering your names. And then the fantastical Mr. Fox. So you 2 guys are the latest heroes. Thank you very much, and thank you for the donations. So very much appreciated. let's jump straight into the first story. So we got kind of I'm not going to call it an accidental kind of leak for this because that makes it seem bigger than it is. But it looks like we have a PlayStation showcase set for sometime in May. What happened? There was a kind of a absent-minded conversation about the Silent Hill 2 remake, and who was it who said it? But Jeff Grubb. So Jeff Grubb was a very kind of lackadaisical. Oh yeah, well they might showcase this in like I don't know May sometime, and that was like basically his exact words, which kind of fueled into the speculation that we are getting a bigger PlayStation showcase in May. There's lots of we've talked in the past on the things that we want to see kind of coming up from Sony this year, because it's we still are kind of relatively thin on the ground on the blue side of things. Richie, I'll start with you. Is there anything you're chomping at the bit to see, and what will you be disappointed if you don't see at this one?
Chomping at a bit to see and a bit disappointed that I don't see it. Probably different answers, to be honest. I don't think there's anything I'd be disappointed.
Different answers, Richie.
Yeah. What I would love to see is Ghost of Tsushima 2. Anything about that? Just a confirmation that it's being worked on, because I don't think we've ever had anything formal on that. It's just an assumption. But I don't think at the moment there's nothing that Sony currently working on in the that has come out in the near future that I'm overly excited by. So I don't think there's anything I'd be disappointed that isn't there. I want to see Ghost of Tsushima 2. I want to see what other guys are working on. Maybe what is Naughty Dog working on, but with Last of Us factions kind of canned, that may be way too soon for them or something. Yeah, I just want to see Sony go back to their first party single player like action adventure, like what made them great throughout the PS4 era. Like, what have you got for us? Because there's a ton of stuff we know about, but it tends to be more games as a service-y stuff, which I'd expect to be there.
Well, that's interesting.
The other stuff I want to see.
That's an interesting point, though, because like we know historically they've been very heavy on the games as a service type.
Yeah, they pivoted to it, but then they're seemingly pivoting back away from it.
That's the thing, yeah. So maybe this year's going to be the composition's going to be kind of reflect that. I'd hope.
That's what I've said all this year is I think this is going to be a down year for Sony because of the pivots they've been making.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Chris, what about yourself?
Yeah, the rumours obviously stem from they had a showcase last May, so it makes sense that they just have that yearly cadence of this. And Jeff Grubb's quite plugged into, well, he's got a lot of stuff right, reports and rumours. And I think, as Richie said, the kind of the forecast ahead looks quite barren outside of live service games. However their development's going, we know Sony have rolled a lot of stuff back behind the scenes of late, especially like the Last of Us factions being cancelled and seemingly they pivot away from it. But then part of me thinks the success of Helldivers might make them go, oh, actually, I know we dipped our toe in the pool and we kind of decided not to go swimming, but now looking at the success of Helldivers, we're like, should we just go cannonball straight in with this shit?
Is it like a massive like brain blow up where it's like maybe we just have to make good games as a service?
My thing is, I think you need both, because you got a huge multiplayer audience, a huge single player audience, so cater to both audience. Don't go too hard into one camp.
Yeah,
produce quality products for both camps. They've done it with Helldivers, and we know they can do it with single player stuff. So just do that.
Yeah, I think it's that risk reward, isn't it? Where we know, looking at the state of the market, there was a survey that came out this week that actually isn't in our news. It was in our Discord. There was a bunch of our fine folks over there talking about it, of just like the state of who's playing video games, and the poll of like 4,000 gamers. They said showcased that actually the bulk of the games that are played today are older than 6 years. So like Grand Theft Auto, Minecraft, Fortnite. These games as a service are absorbing a lot of people's time. So actually the market for single player offline games is shrinking, or has shrunk more than ever. But then again, with Jim Ryan exiting, that was clearly his approach, was to get into games as a service. I think if we see a showcase, I like Richie, I think Ghost of Tsushima 2 is definitely primed to go, especially with the movie in the works. I think they could get some really good synergy maybe in 2025, like late summer. I'm keen to know what the Sony Bend, the studio behind Days Gone, are doing, because they haven't had a title out since probably 2019 now, with Days Gone.
Yeah. We talked about them last week as well, where they seem to be going quite strong as a games as a service, but it seems to be one of the ones that it hasn't been canned.
Yeah, and that's a new IP, presumably. A lot of people talking about Siphon Filter because that's their franchise, but I don't know if there's space in the world for another shooter. A la The Division, maybe. We'll have to see. But I think Fair Games, Concord Marathon, I think only one of them is probably going to hit. You've got to roll the dice, and I think my money's probably on Marathon just because it's Bungie. The other two, well, Fair Games, unproven. It's the ex-Google Stadia team, and Concord, we know nothing about it other than it's sci-fi space stuff, which... Again, is there room for that in the world? So my little ones I would like to see in between are probably a Astrobot standalone game. That's been rumoured for quite some time. After that, remember, it launched with the PS5 and everyone was blown away by that kind of tech demo of what it did. So that even then, that's been, 2019 the PS5 came out? So you're talking they've had 4.5 years development cycle on that over at, I think Studio Japan worked on it. Or Sobo Studio, maybe. I get them confused. So other than that, I'm not looking for much. I think Sony Santa Monica, Cory Barlog teased that he was working on some great stuff, but I think that's a long way out. We've got no God of War stuff in the pipeline. Naughty Dog is seemingly just lost in production somewhere, and I don't think we'll see anything from them anytime soon. And then the final one is probably what the hell are Bluepoint working on, because they're the ones who, like, other than Dark Souls, which again was a PS5 release, they've been working on a new entry in something for 4 years, over 4 years now. So there's a lot of stuff I think it's cooking, but it must be getting close. So either, I don't think we'll get any dates, but I think we should definitely get some decent reveals of single player games to kind of go, look, this is PS5 for the next year. The Pro's coming out later this year, rumoured. The next wave is going to ride with the Pro, I think, from this Christmas.
I think that... Go on, Richie.
Yeah, I was going to say my worry with PlayStation at the moment, I think it's just a short-term issue that's just going to, like, have maybe a barren year or two, is because of these, like, at the head of PlayStation changing these directions. They're doubling down on games as a service. Then we're having issues here. Let's move back. Let's move away from that. That's going to have impact to every single team that's working on stuff. I think Naughty Dog is probably the prime example where they were moving onto a games as a service, Last of Us. Then that's just been straight up canned. So we don't know how far of a project's down in production, but I imagine they're probably fairly early production if they'd even started. So that it might be another 4 years before we see anything from Naughty Dog at this point. So I think that is going to leave this bit of a barren period, unfortunately. It's not concerning, to be honest, because I think it's disappointing, but I think Sony will get back to it.
I mean, that's just us in our little echo chamber, isn't it? Because realistically, the PS5 selling its competition 3-1, and the games they've had this year, like, remember Final Fantasy Rebirth, you just put 80 plus hours in it, Richie. Me and Rob have been hammering away at Helldivers like any other game. What isn't? Yeah. No, but in terms of, like, your platform's appearance from the optics point of view, and then they've just had, like, Stellar Blade come up next month, Rise of Ronin was this month, so they have exclusive games that have been put out to represent the brand. And, like, I think this is what Sony have always done better than Xbox, is just tactically, when they know there's a gap in their pipeline, they make a deal with someone. They get Square Enix in, they get someone else in and go, right, we're well aware we're barren for the first 2 halves of the year. 2 halves of the year? 2 quarters of the year. Let's get a deal in. And they do great at marketing that.
It's a good strategy because things like Rise of the Ronin fills a gap in the calendar, which allows something like a Naughty Dog more time. It allows Sucker Punch more time to work on Ghost of Tsushima. Because then you're not trying to rush that out. You can keep your first party stuff. You know what? You guys go when you're ready, and we'll find something to fill the gap to keep the money ticking over. Yeah,
I'm just getting excited that we're getting we're literally like 2 months out from Summer Game Fest when we just get treated to like this slew of new things. Like we only really get that at Christmas for the Game Awards. And then now, like, seemingly, if you remember through, like, COVID times, like, I feel like they did something every quarter, and then they've realised, like, actually, we don't need to put out a digital showcase every quarter, and they've all kind of, like, reeled that in a little bit, which I guess just means that it bubbles up to, like, a better quality piece of content. And a showcase is a lot better than a state of play, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, especially early COVID, there was a lot of over-promising on dates and stuff, and lots and lots of delays everywhere, so I think they're trying to hold that back a bit.
Agreed. I mean, speaking of the Summer Game Fest, we've got the Ubisoft Forward scheduled in for the June 10th at the moment as part of that kind of celebration. I'm going to be completely honest, like, Ubisoft need to do a lot to kind of pull me back into their ecosystem and kind of get me excited about something. Now, the one thing I'm thinking could do that is Star Wars Outlaws. And I feel like, again, since we're talking about games that are coming, games that are kind of being announced in the next few months, I feel like that needs to have a big showing at the Ubisoft Forward. Chris, obviously, you're probably more into the Ubisoft kind of network or whatever than anybody else on this show at the moment. What do you want to see out of Ubisoft?
So aside from all the Sony stuff we just spoke about, I don't think we'll be seeing anything from them first by the end of this year. So I'm actually hoping Ubisoft are going to come out swinging and basically prep up my back half of the year with what I want to play. I think The Division Heartlands has been a long-awaited one that's coming. That was supposed to be out last summer, so I think this summer surely is a shoo-in for like almost. I feel like it's almost going to be like a day-and-date launch. Like the Ubisoft Forward happens, and then it's imminent or stealth drop or something. It's within that time frame. But in terms of the big hitters, my back end of the year, I expect to be playing Star Wars Outlaws, which they confirmed at their financial thing about a month or so ago that it is coming this year. And then one of the Assassin's Creed, presumably Assassin's Creed Red. So in light of no Ghost of Tsushima, I think Assassin's Creed Red and Star Wars Outlaws. If Ubisoft do Ubisoft, they'll probably put them out the same week because they're idiots like that. But in terms of me, like those two probably 50 plus to 100-hour games will be my entire winter. So if Ubisoft like hit this on like the hype correctly, I'm sold on just those two titles alone because Outlaws looks phenomenal, and I'm such a fan of Assassin's Creed. I'll play it regardless of how good or bad it looks.
Yeah, I think I think that game's like kind of seared into our childhood.
I'm nervous. I'm so nervous about Red because that is the Assassin's Creed game I've wanted for a long time. And the last 3 Assassin's Creed games, I liked them, but I didn't love them. Yeah. It's like, and I think it needs to be a bit more, especially with Valhalla. Valhalla was way too big. It needs to be a little bit more focused, I think, with Red. Like, keep it focused. Don't have a billion different icons on the map where it's just you go somewhere, open the chest, and here's some gold.
Yeah.
These little, you can have an open world, you can have a big open world, but just make sure the content in it is interesting.
Yeah.
Please, Ubisoft. I want Ubisoft to be pitching this game at a 9 or 10 out of 10 rather than being happy with it an 8.
I think what might benefit them actually in a weird way is the mythology that attaches itself. So like Japanese samurai and Oni kind of mythology. Again, it could be just ignorance, but I don't think it's as vast and as widely known as Viking mythology. So I think when they struck Valhalla, they were like, oh, we've got so much to play with here. Yeah. We can start off in Norway, we can get over to England, we can do all this, we can go to Ireland for some Celtic stuff. And I think they just got carried away with like overlapping stories and the past and the present and all that. Whereas I feel like with it being in Japan, it might give them a bit more of an opportunity to maybe focus in and say like, right, let's pick an element of the Japanese mythology to really focus in, whether it's the Oni or the samurai or something, and just like Rich said, make it a bit more grounded and less expansive.
Yeah, I think people have a very superficial understanding of like kind of like that period of Japan as well, where it's like everyone just thinks, oh, samurai, everyone's walking about, it's all about honor and it's all about like.
Yeah.
The truth is, like a lot of it was political and like stuff like that. So if I think it'll lean into that more so than some. Magic spirit coming back or some shit.
I 100% trust Ubisoft to tell a very intriguing story, Assassin's Creed story set in Japan. I have absolutely no doubts they can handle that because I think Assassin's Creed is always at its best when the story's doing the heavy lifting. Mm-hmm. What I want from Assassin's Creed game is what I want from any open world game is have the game occasionally force you back into the story, funnel you back into the story so you don't go 50 hours between chapters or anything of the story. Yeah, so don't give too much at once. Have things slowly unlock as you play through the story. So you don't get this, okay, now I've got open world, I'll go do the towers, and there's a billion icons there. Then you get burnt out before you get hooked by the story.
I feel like also as well, like the double-edged sword with open world games, the plot can very easily become non-urgent and then inconsequential. If like, oh, we have to save, I don't know, Siri, but before that I'm going to like kill all these monsters.
It's like Fallout 4. The Fallout 4 thing is like, oh yeah, my son's been kidnapped. let's build Minutemen. Let's go get the Minutemen. We'll build a city. And then
Yeah.
we'll go do this, and we'll go do that, and go do this. And the plot loses any sense of agency.
Wouldn't it be great?
That's what I don't want to happen here.
Wouldn't it be great if just one of these devs had the balls to just go, like, you get to your mission eventually, go, oh, they died like 3 months ago. Like, you were too late. Like, your other protagonist in your entire story is dead now because you opted to go and hunt chickens on the other side of the map for 10 hours.
There's a hidden internal clock after it goes past a certain thing, like, a character gets killed.
Yeah, or if like you have to like go save your wife, and like you do, and she's fucking furious that it's taken you like 6 months to find her or something.
My ransom letter was posted half a year ago.
It's like at the end of the game, the ending cutscenes, you get divorced.
Yeah, like I'm fully Stockholm syndrome now, so like you're too late type of thing.
Living. How about you then, Rob? There's some obviously rumours of Splinter Cell. I think recently the Ubisoft Toronto changed all of their banner art on social media to like the 3 green dots of the night vision goggles of Sam Fisher, and obviously there's other stuff in the pipeline. But yeah, what's your Ubisoft take? Obviously you said Outlaws.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Outlaws is there for what that game could be, and it's like quite unknown at the moment, right? It's like, but like I think the thing I'm reliably looking excited for the most is Splinter Cell. I think I said in the past that game was like quite formative to me when I first got into like PlayStation 1
So good.
gaming, and I always like remember being mind blown by the fact that in the tutorial you had to like sneak across a room, and I couldn't realize why I was like failing this mission all the time, and it turned out I was like hitting like some chains that were just ringing, and like I hit them and like I made a sound, and like I remember like realizing that I was like, wow, this is something else. This
A stealth action game like these can be. Splinter Cell could be it. It could be. It feels like there's a niche there in the gaming industry at the moment that is just screaming out for Splinter Cell to fill.
Yeah, I agree, and
especially with like a bit of death of new Metal Gear Solid at the moment as well.
Yeah, it's been like what 9 years since Metal Gear 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the remake. It's got things like Delta and stuff, but that's a remake. But there's like something. I know, and this is Splinter Cell's a remake as well, but it could re-spark the franchise.
I mean, the thing with Metal Gear though, it's not the same as old Metal Gear anymore, is it?
No.
They built the Fox engine for number 5, which was like a miracle of like engineering in terms of like a game engine, and then they just binned it off. So like I don't have much faith in the Metal Gear Solid franchise like I have in the past. So I'm hoping Splinter Cell can.
Kojima's not involved anymore, so
That's what I mean, right? So I'm hoping Splinter Cell fills that gap for me. And again, that's probably the thing I'm most looking forward to. Richie, anything? I'm guessing you're all in on Assassin's Creed Red, right?
I'm with all Ubisoft games. I'm never all in. I'm wait for reviews because I always have reservations. I would love to be all in on Assassin's Creed Red and Star Wars Outlaws, but for quite a while I've always felt like Ubisoft the games just feel like, I've said this millions of times across various podcasts, it feels like the games are off a production line and they're lacking that something special for me. I enjoy them, but I don't love them. So they've got like Splinter Cell, Assassin's Creed Red, and Star Wars Outlaws all have my attention. They just need to stick the landing, and then I'll buy you.
Fair. That's fair. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what comes out over the next few months with regards to, I guess, bigger titles and knowing what's on the horizon. Because as we've talked about a lot on this podcast, like I don't know, there's been like bats of drought, I guess you'd call it. Whether that's fair because we're comparing it to last year, which was like a golden.
This time last year it was quiet as well.
At least we can go into it knowing they're not going to promote Skull and Bones. Like that's the saving grace. It's like
we'll just put that on the shelf and be done with it.
Unless there's one last like crack. Is it though?
I mean, not hearing about it much, but I think it's found a bit of an audience.
Has it though? Have you seen the pre-orders for Sea of Thieves on PS5 though? That's like it's like the highest pre-order. It's like basically everyone wants a pirate game, just not Skull and Bones.
Yeah.
But it'll be nice to go into it without a sea shanty or anything like that being like dragged across the stage once again.
There'll be Skull and Bones Season 2 or something that they're promoting.
There's already said the 4-year roadmap for the next year. So 4-point roadmap.
It'll be there. And you can guarantee there'll be things like Just Dance and stuff there, like the stuff you'd expect to see.
Yeah, I mean, there's other stuff like X Define, I think, was again supposed to come out last summer, like Division Heartlands, and that got pushed back. So, like, that behind the scenes in the betas has been received surprisingly well. A lot of people compare it to Call of Duty in terms of the gameplay. And we know Ubisoft do well with Rainbow Six Siege, so, like, they've got, like, first-person shooter mechanics down. Just see how it goes. They did,
Prince of Persia, so maybe Prince of Persia makes a comeback here, because the remake kind of got changed studio and then it went very quiet for a few years.
That's true.
So maybe this is where it makes its reoccurrence.
Yeah. There's Far Cry as well. I think that's very much due its reskin of the map. They'll take Far Cry 6, they'll reskin it into whatever that looks like. I think there was some rumours just before Christmas about that one. So it's like a little in a different version of the game, like a mid top up, and people complain, oh, they've used the same assets. It's like, but the game looks completely different. Like every one of those ones I've played, I've never once thought, like, does anyone really recognise a map? Like, maps are so big now. You know, like Grand Theft Auto's map's so iconic.
Yeah.
But then when you look at like Vice City, it's like the map is like so small compared to anything else. It's like, so it's not iconic. There was only like 10 things to notice in it. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
So we'll get that.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out, and I'm just happy to have more information on what's to come. Another thing that is coming very soon, and it's worth talking about a bit more depth this month, because it is a pretty big month for PlayStation Plus, and that's the, I guess, day one title, the kind of instant titles we're going to get on the April release of PlayStation Plus, which is scheduled for in April, should I say. I'm flubbing my words so much on this section because I'm actually trying to read the.
It's your mid-month drop.
There's two big titles coming to PlayStation Plus's catalogue. So not the claimable games; they're already out now. Go play them. Go claim them. But yeah, just the two big titles are day one releases. So Dave the Diver got like so many plaudits last year for being the best indie game. It was at the Game Awards. Absolutely amazing. It's like you are a deep sea diver by day, but then I think by night you run a whole basically franchise of stores and other businesses and all this. And the PlayStation launch has like a Godzilla like DLC randomly built into it.
Yeah, like the fact that Godzilla went like what's the term? Yeah, like when anybody can use it. The
public.
Public domain. Yeah. So yeah, I think everyone's going to just do a Godzilla.
So yes.
Content.
So that's like a great
Mickey Mouse.
I mean, it'll happen. But yeah, so that's like a greatly revered game that only came out, like, it's coming first to the console like on 16th of April, and it's a day one in the PlayStation Plus Extra. So that's like, don't have to, if you've heard of it, you want to play it, it's included in your subscription. The other one was the Tales of Kenzera, which we've seen a lot at the Game Awards. It's actually back to the Assassin's Creed story. The guy who's directing it and the studio head is the guy who played Bayek in Assassin's Creed Origins, so he is a game voice actor. So he's played through and through. He's the one who at the Game Awards, Richie, who gave that really emotional story about his dad passing away.
Yeah, this was one of the ones, I think, for a 2D kind of side-scroller kind of thing, it looks really cool.
Yeah, it looks like the Prince of Persia remake, funnily enough.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. It takes a lot for me to get pulled into like a real indie, like an indie title, but this, it looks like something very different. The aesthetic's very different. The actual themes in there as well. So for anybody who's not aware,
it's doing like what Black Panther did to the MCU, where Black Panther was so successful because it portrayed African culture in a kind of an interesting way and a very leaned heavy into that. This is doing this kind of the same thing, and.
For people who aren't
in
aware,
Europe and America, we tend not to know that much about African culture, to be honest.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the synopsis at the moment is like players will take control of Zhao, a young warrior sharing from Amandla, who seeks out Kulunga, the god of death, to bargain with him to bring his Baba back from the realm of the dead. Baba being father for not his baby. Yeah, as Richie said, like we don't really get much content on Western markets from these types of places, like Africa we've talked in the past, as well as India as well. We don't really get many
and
titles
there's a lot
that are
of
centered
rich,
around those.
interesting culture there. So that's what I think. That's giving, while it looks like a very, very solid game in its own right, adding that extra layer does seem like it's going to give this game something special.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, the most notable title as I was growing up that was set in Africa was Resident Evil 5, and I just had you basically killing a bunch of Africans. So like, listen on that.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to go with like the Lion King on the Sega Mega Drive or something.
Well, That doesn't count. That's Disney doing something, right? That's not like
It's
a
set in
game.
Africa.
It's hardly culture though if it's just animals.
Animals are cultured. Have you not watched The Lion King, Chris?
Yeah, of course. Best-selling VHS of all time is a nice little
Really?
fact for you there, yeah. And then they stopped making VHSs, so it'll hold the record forever.
I thought the schools who bought Twister would have like synced
It's
that,
sequel
but
coming out of that soon. But in terms of like PlayStation Plus, it's just it's a huge boon, I think, for gamers. Like PlayStation tends to have like one solid month. Every year they pick a month and go like, right, let's give them something new rather than just back catalogue stuff. And this seemingly is it. Like you're getting 2 day one releases that would have otherwise probably cost you in excess of like $35 to $40, whatever, just free to play. So I 100% will be checking out Dave the Diver. I will be checking out Kenzera as well. And this might just be that thing that ironically fills that gap between now and whatever's next. So throw that into the mix with Helldive and stuff. But yeah, great month, great get, and hopefully the review well as well.
Yeah, be very interesting. Not to be outdone by that, we've also had some rumours from the green side of gaming with Microsoft. There's been talk of them, again, this is just talk, so this is internet speculation at best until we hear more. But there's rumours that Microsoft are looking into the Call of Duty back catalogue, and potentially gearing up to make an announcement at the June showcase, which will be super interesting considering the saga we went through with the acquisition of those titles, and we know they have to do something big with them to start kind of recouping that. God, I can't remember the fantasy money that was involved in the purchase. So yeah, they're definitely gearing up to do something. Now, I don't think it's going to be anything as far as these games are coming to Game Pass in the near future. I do feel like there's probably going to be some bundles come out, maybe some kind of compatibility fixes for all the titles. What about Richie? Let's start with you. What do you think's kind of in the pipeline here?
I could see some of the older games coming to Game Pass because we know Ubisoft have the fingers in this particular pie with the Activision cloud stuff. So I could genuinely actually see some of the older titles, maybe like up to maybe Modern Warfare, World at War, even Modern Warfare 2 coming. They're the ones where I don't think like PlayStation are going to like kick up a fuss at the moment. Some of the new stuff like
I don't think they can now, right? It's done.
Yeah, it's
other than like mourning a little bit,
things like this. They never really done. There'll be a lot of stuff like in the agreements and stuff that have like about Call of Duty, especially coming to Game Pass and how that implies the PlayStation. It might just be a right of refusal. Like if you want to bring an Activision Blizzard game to Game Pass, you have to offer the same thing to Sony, and then it's on Sony to decline. But I'd like to see the back catalogue start to come. I don't think it'll all come in one drop. It might just be a drip feed thing. It makes more sense actually, I think, for Microsoft to drip feed it.
We're talking over the course of like a year or something to get that full subscription revenue, I guess.
You could even be longer. You could start off with maybe the first like 3 Call of Duties in one drop. Then maybe every 6 months you just drop another one.
Yeah.
And just work your way through the catalogue.
Yeah, well,
so you're staggering that release to get the interest.
The big rumour is, or like not the big rumour, but the corroborated inside story is that this year's Call of Duty, which is going to be known as Black Ops Gulf War, so we're back to the Black Ops kind of cycle of franchise, mini franchise within a franchise. So Gulf War is going to be featured heavily at the Xbox Showcase in June. So their big summer showcase, no doubt around Summer Games Fest. It's probably like Ubisoft Forward. Jeff's opening night live, Ubisoft Forward, then the Xbox One, and probably PlayStation. They'll go some point around there, like Nintendo will. Someone within that gravity pull. I could see them just showing the big trailer for Black Ops Gulf War, big bang. There's the date on it, comes out this November, whatever it usually is, the usual window before Christmas. And then you get like the, I don't know, ping of what's like the green or the sound effect with the night vision goggles coming up or something. It'll do that. And then they'll announce, I think, like Richie said, they'll do them in waves. I think by franchise, you'll get the old Call of Duties, Wave 1, perhaps. Then the Black Ops package, Wave 2. Then the Modern Warfare package, Wave 3. Like, bundle them in with their like, mini franchises.
Yeah, you could do it.
And hit that cadence where if you're like a Call of Duty fan, you're getting like a proper bump of like just eyes on a news cycle gradually, rather than drop it all. Now, I have had a little look into it just to kind of let's gauge where and when this could do with regards to the acquisition. When they acquired Bethesda That deal closed on March 9th of that year. The first batch of Bethesda games went in 3 days later into Game Pass.
This is
which
a more
is one.
complicated
Oh,
deal,
absolutely,
also.
absolutely. However, to add a little bit more to that ABK thing, we just got Diablo this month. So they are actively now putting ABK games into Game Pass as of this month. So I think the older catalogue, especially, I don't think we'll get anything recent going. No chance. You might as well make your money on that while you can. But as I think Richie alluded to, the older stuff, I think we're going to expect a big. I think by the end of the year, there's going to be a lot of Call of Duty on Game Pass.
I think that could be an interesting thing. Like, if let's say Black Ops Cold War comes out, is it usually September? That
November is
Call of Duty
usually
drops? November. Yeah, say that drops in November. Maybe just drop Call of Duty 1, 2, and 3 whenever, just to get them out there. They're probably the ones that people are less interested in. And then you do the maybe August, September. You drop the entire Black Ops catalog. So you have if you haven't played Black Ops in a while, or you've missed games, you can now on Xbox go through and play the entire story up to this point. And then maybe next year you look at maybe Modern Warfare or whatever the other stratas of Call of Duty are at the moment, and you just do it by franchise. That could work better than just like a slow drop. At least in this case, yeah.
Well, I guess time will tell. Again, it looks to be part of the June showcase, which is actually Microsoft's teeing some big things up for this showcase, really. Because so obviously we've got the Call of Duty focus, but we've also got a Gears of War 6 reveal coming as well. Again, rumored around like the 9th of June at this point. You guys have been playing Boogies actually recently, thanks to the wonders of Game Pass, giving you access to the full back catalogue. Obviously, you guys are new to the franchise. Like, for me, I'm very much excited for this because the series kind of took a dip from like 4 and then kind of started to redeem itself with 5. And I'm expecting it could either go one or two ways. It could either continue that trajectory, or the other side of me is like, it's the 6th game in the series.
Needs to do something.
The franchise is old at this point, so yeah, I'm hoping for good things. But is there any, like, obviously you're in the Gears universe now? Any excitement from you two on this?
Yeah, like me and Richie had a great time playing through Gears, and it's always one where I've not played them, but I've appreciated them, if that makes sense. Like seeing them in and around pop culture, and what I've played of horde mode of probably 4, maybe around a friend's house. Like I've always enjoyed what I've played. I've just never had an Xbox to play them. So I think 6 might be, if they set it up of like, this is for old and new, you can jump in now fresh on this generation without having to have played the first ones, which I think they always have to do when you've had such a gap between entries, and as you said, Rob, being the 6th entry in the franchise, not including like tactics and all the other spin-offs. I think this could be a great win for them. I think it's probably going to be on Unreal 5, right? Because that's what it runs on. It's an Epic game originally, Gears, right? And then it was acquired into the Xbox family, so it's got that heritage. I think this could be an absolute stunning visual masterpiece for Unreal and also Microsoft. And I think, let's face it, I think Gears is probably bigger than Halo right now, in terms of just like, we've seen it in the polls and the fan base and the PlayStation. I think it just has a more positive spin on it because it's maybe not attached to that multiplayer vibe, which Halo is. So I think Gears 6 could be huge for them. I think they need some big tentpole franchises, and if Halo Infinite's kind of just like faded away now, I think this could be their next big push. So yeah, looks great, and I'll put it day one. I don't want to be making my way through 2, 3, 4, 5 and promise to get to it. Yeah. I mean, we might get there depending on the cadence of release, but we'll see.
I mean, the Gears story isn't like one that's very subversive in terms of what you expect to happen. It's
big monsters, hide behind a wall and shoot at them. That's what I'm expecting, and it will be fun.
Yeah. What about yourself, Richie?
Basically the same. I think I do agree with Chris. I feel like Halo Infinite was an attempt to really put the shine back on the franchise and didn't quite manage it. Gears has been sat there for about 5 years since Gears 5. So I think Xbox is really crying out for like these big first party tentpoles. Where if you think of Sony, you can think of things like Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon, Last of Us, Uncharted. You can just rattle them off. I struggle to do that with Xbox. And the ones that do reel off is like things like Halo or Gears. Gears has been a while. Halo Infinite didn't. I think it's going strong in the multiplayer and stuff still, but it didn't quite capture the same like kind of spark of the imagination of the gaming world that the earlier entries did. So I think Gears. I almost feel like there's quite a bit of pressure on Gears, and I hope it lives up to the billing because I'm new to Gears. I always had a bit of a mental block of what Gears actually was. I just remember seeing the weird proportioned guys in huge metal suits and after playing the first game, it's like, oh, I get this game. I get why this is good. I enjoyed it a lot more than I did the Halo games we've played so far.
Yeah, I think one thing to remember as well is that the standard of gaming caught up to Gears because the Gears innovated the cover system, but then it can't rely on that now, kind of, because it's just box standard.
Again, after only playing Gears 1, I really enjoyed the experience. I can see the route forward to what a modern Gears would look and feel like to play, and I am interested. And I think the world is ready for Gears 6.
Yeah, to give you a little bit of insight into Halo Infinite's current performance, as of 9 minutes ago, there was literally 2,003 people playing it. Its 24-hour peak was 7,000. Its all-time peak was 250,000. But to put that into perspective, currently playing Helldivers 2, 164,700. Its 24-hour peak, 250,000, and its all-time peak is just short of 500,000.
Also, to give more context to that, so like the Total War series of games, which I'm kind of into.
Yeah.
The Medieval 2 game, which is, I think, I don't know, I remember buying that when I was like 18, 16.
Yeah, it's an old game, so this is a better comparison, really, because Halo Infinite isn't new.
No. But we're talking like a 20-year-old game,
or
to that point. That has about 2,000 people playing that regularly. Like,
yeah, there's some stark comparisons. Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition currently has, as of 11 minutes ago,
anything to Age of Empires 2. That's unfair.
20,000 people compared to Halo Infinite's 2,000.
It's one of the best games of all time.
But it's mad to think like such a multiplayer-driven first-party title is so far. And again, it's on Steam, so you're missing like the people on actual Xbox. But then I guess Age of Empires is Xbox and Helldivers is on PS5 as well. But like they're never apples to oranges, are they? But it's just that's how far it's fallen almost. Whereas I think Gears, it just has a bit more momentum behind it. I think in the public eye to do well. So it's going to be a busy summer. That's for sure.
Yeah, and actually, next story is even more Xbox news. This time we're talking Hellblade 2. So this is set for release on, I want to say 21st of March. Yeah, sorry, 21st of May, sorry. So, again, very, very close to that release date now. And it's been confirmed that this game will be locked at 30 frames per second. That's the first little story we'll talk about for Hellblade 2. And as is to be expected when the internet talks about frame rate, like people lost this shit.
Frame rate stops.
So it's like there's been like I won't say a lot of backlash, but there's been a fair amount of, I don't know, I guess dulling the excitement of the game. I think from my perspective, there's certain games that need 60 frames per second now. Racing games, first person shooters, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think a game like Hellblade 2, which is a much more intimate, much more
cinematic,
sorry. Like, I just don't think it needs 30 frames per second. You could actually get away with 24 frames per second because it's more like an actual cinematic experience. Like, I just don't see the need for this game to be at 60 frames per second with bad performance as opposed to with 30 frames per second. Like, with smoother kind of less intensive performance issues.
I'm with you there. Actually, we had this conversation on Discord the other day. Links in the description below. When I played for the Hellblade 1, it's like it is quite slow paced. The combat is quite methodical. It's not a fast paced Twitch shooter. You don't need that frame rate to have a good experience. So I don't think this is a problem at all. And it's one of them. I think after 10 minutes of playing, you probably don't even register the frame rate. The only time I think you would is if you went from playing a fast-paced game at like at 60 plus frames per second, then switched immediately to it, might be a bit jarring there, because I found that with Plague Tale.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you give it a bit of breathing room and play it, then you don't even notice, and you probably don't care. I think some people just like 60 frames per second. It should be, I think, is a target that a lot of games should be aiming at, but not every game needs to hit it. And I think this might be a case of this game is better for being at 30, because then they can focus on things that matter more to the game.
Yeah, it can be a stylistic choice as well.
Yeah,
you know, like the feel of the game is distinct from its tech stats in lots of ways, and I think that gets lost in the.
If you really care about frame rates that much, put your hand in your pocket, buy a gaming PC.
Yeah,
because it's unlocked on PC. It's only on consoles it's locked.
Yeah, so like this is like a complete non-story for me personally. Chris, I don't know if you're not a frame rate snob either.
Oh, I am not. No, I'm not really. Yeah, it's that
He'd
thing.
be fine at 15.
I wouldn't go that far. I think it's one of the things. I think the news cycle of things and journalists know gets clicks, and I think it's easy to pile on. Like, it's that thing where, because we in our mind, like 4K 60 is like the pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
I think people kind of get confused a little bit with like, oh, if it doesn't hit that number, it's trash. The devs haven't got it to run properly, and it's like, actually.
It was the selling point for this generation, 4K 60.
Yeah, but it's not like it's a movie. If a movie came out and was like, oh, it's only available in 1080p, people were like, okay, but that wouldn't detract from the quality of them. Like, you could still enjoy the plot and the characters and what's going on. It just wouldn't be as crisp as it maybe could have been.
Frame rate impacts how the game feels more than how it looks, to be honest.
Yeah.
And if the game still feels good to play, then the frame rate is irrelevant.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. First one looked great.
Every bit of information we've got says this game's it looks great. It's going to. The themes are really good, interesting, and just can't see a way to get dulled.
It just helps with that narrative of like, oh, is the Series S holding this game back? And
it's partially true, but if that was the case, they'd have it unlocked on the Series X, which they haven't.
Yeah. So I mean, that's one part of the Hellblade 2 kind of news this week. The second one, and it's additional entry to the Rob Butchers Somebody's Name section of the show, which is always ever popular. So it was interesting to note that the Ninja Theory founder and Hellblade writer Tamim Antonides, maybe, who knows?
Not going to attempt it.
Yeah, has actually departed from the studio and is no longer working with the developer. I don't really know what to read into this too much, because like they didn't make a particularly big deal of it. It had to be kind of questioned before it got confirmed.
Yeah, it's a suspicious one, just because like usually they get the bonuses are triggered after a game's launch. So if he's leaving now, it's almost like, does he not want? It's like probably $500,000 he would have got from it. Or...
It's probably locked. His bonus is probably locked in. If it's a project-based bonus, it's probably locked in. If his
depends how he left.
Game is done. Depends how he's left. We see this quite a lot in gaming. Like, people spend a lot of time and effort and probably a lot of crunch working on a game. Then they tend sometimes to take a break, leave the studio, pop up in a few years' time at a different studio. In 3 years' time, we'll talk about him. Former Ninja Theory founder has just joined Activision or something.
Who's that? Which former Ninja Theory founder, Richie?
Tamim Antonides.
Nailed it. But I think it's suspicious. It's probably just trying to like just quash the flames before they get before the launch. Like, they don't want anything to detract from the launch, and I think it's like he's gone, but we'll maybe not.
He's made a decision after the game's done to like step down, but rather than stepping down as the game's coming out and maybe this being a talking point around the launch, leave early. Get the news out the way. People get over the news. But focus goes back onto the game when the game launches.
Just we all have to remember as well. Like, we talk about game developers in a sense that they're a function to bring games out, but these people are real people with get sick of the jobs, want to move on from the jobs and stuff like that, right? So
just wait till he tweets out at launch and says, "I'm not happy that this game wasn't 60 frames per second, so I left." I stormed out.
But it's just like a video of him, like with like the game. He's like, but no, it can't because it's digital only, isn't it? But it's just like him throwing a box in the trash.
Yeah, I think it's one. Unless you actually hear rumors of any kind of bad blood or anything, I think it's just a guy leaving his job. more so than anything. Maybe it's just like I've fulfilled the vision I wanted with Ninja Theory. It's time for something else. And we're seeing actually a lot of AAA developers after a long career making AAA go, you know what, I want to go back to what I loved, and that's making small indie titles, actually getting more hands-on making games rather than dealing with paychecks and everything that comes from being like a business owner.
Yeah, exactly that, right?
Yeah. Well, he was writer director for Hellblade, so he was probably still involved, but it might just be a case of I want to go to do something smaller, less stressful.
Less frame.
Exactly. So all the best for him, unless he's done something bad, in which case you're an awful person. Well, just hedging the bets there, you know, given the state of the industry at the moment. Moving on very, very swiftly from that borderline slander. If I'd asked both of you who you would vote for as the most iconic game character of all time, who would you go for? Let's start with you, Richie.
Mario.
Mario. Chris?
Mario.
Both Mario. That's
I think if you showed a photo of him to nearly anyone on this planet, they'd be like, that's Super Mario.
He's been relevant since before we were born. Constantly relevant. However, how many other like video game characters can say the same?
I'd go Sonic, but I think that's just because I was more Sega than Nintendo when I was younger.
Sonic's iconic, but not as the level of Mario.
Yeah, I think you could go like, I think Mario now is up that level of like Mickey Mouse fame, where you could just hold two pictures up to like kids in China or Australia or anywhere, and they just go, that's Mario, that's Mickey Mouse, and I think
late 90s. I think late 90s you could argue it's Sonic or Mario for number one, but since then it's definitely Mario over Sonic.
Yeah, okay.
It's definitely not Agent 47.
Yeah, so to give context to the audience who are like, why the hell are these people talking about this?
How's Agent 47 above Pac-Man?
Did we get to that?
Get to the list.
Right? I haven't announced the list yet. Jesus. So, the BAFTA organisation, who are more known for like movies as opposed in TV as opposed to games, they've had a poll on who is the most iconic video game character of all time, and there's been some pretty, I'd say, surprising results in there for me. So taking the top spot is not Sonic or Mario, it's actually Lara Croft, which I guess maybe the people polled in their age were like around when like Tomb Raider was at like magnum opus of relevancy.
It feels like this is a bunch of guys who grew up probably similar our age, but is not really heavily involved in games, so they haven't really paid that much attention since the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, I'll run through the top five for the audience.
Lara deserves a place on the list, just not number one.
So, like, top five, we've got Lara Croft. Number two is Mario, which makes sense from your guys' perspective. Number three is Agent 47 from the Hitman series, which...
He's iconic, but...
He's iconic, but is he as iconic as the number 4 entry of Sonic?
Yeah, again, going back to hold a picture of these people up to kids or adults or old people, anyone like that, they're just going like, it's just a bot. Like, which version do you show them? Like, that's the thing with, like, because it's a human being. Like, although Mario's a human being, he's a very distinct human being. I feel like they're just going to be like, oh, it's just a bald guy. Is he that politician from Bulgaria? And they're going to be like, no, he's a video game character. He's the most generic-looking guy without hair you could possibly get. Yeah. I do not believe he's up there.
He's like generic by design as well. That's like the point of...
Yeah,
like...
his iconic thing is the barcode.
Yeah. So Sonic came in at number 4, and then Sackboy was number 5, which I found surprising.
Higher up in this list than I would have expected. Again, I think he deserves a place. Maybe he deserves a place in the list, but he was more of the mid 2000s, 2010s.
But he's not higher than Pac-Man.
Yeah, Pac-Man was number 6 for context, and then just to round out the top 10, we've got 7 was Link from The Legend of Zelda. Fair enough.
You mean
characters of all time.
But how many people think that's Zelda? That's the thing.
That's true.
Hold the picture up. That's Zelda from Legend of Zelda.
I don't think it's as many as you think. I think there's a lot of people might not know the name of the character, but would recognize the character more than Agent 47. They go, oh, that's Sky thingy from Legend of Zelda.
Yeah. So after that, we've got Master Chief in at number 8, which I would put him above Agent 47.
Yeah.
Number 9, we've got Kratos at God of War, which, given the state of that franchise at the moment, like
Yeah.
You can maybe argue for higher, but it's probably okay there. Number 10, Shadowheart from Baldur's Gate 3, who I have no idea who that is because I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3 yet.
So Shadowheart over. If you're going to have a Baldur's Gate character, you go Minsk.
Yeah.
He's been in all of them, so.
And yeah, so like 2 honourable mentions from that list. Number 11 is Arthur Morgan, just because he is the greatest. He's not the most iconic, but he is the greatest video game character of all time, in my opinion.
Sorry.
And then 12 is Pikachu.
How does Arthur Morgan, Red Dead, no problems with that, him being on this list. How does he beat out Pikachu?
I don't think he was in Pikachu as a game
multimedia franchise of all time.
This is why no one watches.
Pikachu is the mascot.
But
Pikachu should be up there with Mario.
He's not a game character though, is he? He's like a
Game was first. Game was first. Then anime after.
Yeah, but he's he helms. Pikachu is the de facto mascot of the most successful multimedia franchise of all time.
But then is this
he
where...
He deserves to be up there with Mario.
Yeah, if they're the most iconic, it doesn't necessarily mean the need to be iconic because of the video game. Like, I'd argue Sonic's probably more popular than ever because of the movies.
Yeah, true.
And then it's like, and again, Lara, because maybe Angelina Jolie got a lot of fame back in the day for that.
Yeah.
But this is where, remember, this is BAFTA, and BAFTA are ridiculous in their own right. But the poll was engaged with over 4,000 players from all over the world, is the only info they give us. So it's like, what do you count as a gamer? Because I agree with Richie, like, almost, actually, you know what, now I'm thinking of it, Pikachu would probably be up there with Mickey Mouse and Mario, I'd argue.
I think so, yeah.
Pikachu could take the top slot. I wouldn't Mario, but Pikachu, if Pikachu was number one, I'd go, fair.
Yeah, but then if you hold up a picture Arthur Morgan, they're going to be like, oh, that's the Red Dead guy, right? Or like, again, I just don't think a generic human being figure's going to nail it as much.
Yeah, true.
There's definitely some skewing going, because there's like some, like, when you talk about iconic of all time, Baldur's Gate 3, amazing game by all accounts. But Shadowheart at 10, and then you've got Astarion at 17. It feels like that's recency bias going on.
Oh, yeah.
But with a very specific audience. Because like I said, we're all gamers. I have no clue who any of these Baldur's Gate 3 people are, which means if they can't break through to the pop culture consciousness, they're not iconic enough.
They have a bit, I think, in the kind of Twitter space. But Baldur's Gate 3, within such a new game, doesn't have the legacy behind what some of the other characters is like Cloud Strife is in the 16, Crash Bandicoot 15, like
Poor Crash 15.
Yeah, Sackboy's in 4.
Yeah,
like come on.
Harsh,
Where's my boy Spyro as well?
I'm not sure. I think 15 might be okay for Crash if the guys above him were
when Arthur Morgan.
Yeah.
Don't talk shit about Arthur Morgan. Okay, I'll have none of this on the week I'm hosting. We will have no shit talk about Arthur Morgan. Okay.
I'm not shit talking about him. I think he's higher up on the list than he deserves, but he should be on the list.
I got the TB.
No, we're not talking about the quality of the character. We're talking about how iconic they are.
BAFTAs, man, what are you doing?
Yeah. Like, Arthur Morgan's willingness to do any single task for like $2, regardless of how little he wants to do it, he's iconic. Okay, so. None of that shit.
You know what's the shame about this whole list? It's like there's no bad guys on here. There's got to be some iconic villains.
Yeah,
they need 2 lists realistically as well. But yeah. Shout out to Lara
Sephiroth
Croft.
is more iconic than Arthur Morgan.
Oof,
Richie, I'm good.
we need to tell you what we'll do. Tell you what we'll do, lads. We'll put a pin in this for now. I think we'll throw it over to our Discord this week, and we'll do a proper poll, and we'll decide who the Gamer Guild's top iconic people are this week. We'll figure it out off the show because this could go on forever.
As chosen by our Discord. So
exactly.
We will tell you who our sample is, and if you want to join that sample, you know where the links are.
In Legend of Zelda, apparently.
Yeah. We'll cap off the show with a couple of like other stories just to cleanse our palate of that sour discussion that turned into about.
I just found it funny.
It's like, it wasn't funny. It's never funny when you're talking Arthur Morgan, okay? Apart from that mission with Lenny where they get drunk, that's kind of funny. So quickly jumping over. So we actually had I wouldn't call it a leak, but it was a bit of like an interesting blast from the past on maybe like a look into what could have been from Monolith. So for those who aren't aware, what became Shadow of Mordor first started as like a Batman game around the time of the Dark Knight trilogy, and some footage has emerged of kind of like the early versions of that game, and I guess kind of like the work that went into it before it got cancelled and transformed into Shadow of Mordor. And look at the screenshots, look at the footage. It looked really, really interesting. And like, I almost get like a what's the word? Like
FOMO?
What could it be? Yeah, FOMO. Yeah, 100% that. Chris, obviously you're a big fan of the Arkham series, and the
Shadow. Yeah.
What could like?
I mean,
this looks really interesting, right?
What's baffling is that WB would have two games like kind of going at the same time, because obviously the Arkham series was like 2 games deep at this point. So it's like they had a successful Batman series running. All I can think, because this game, like, this looks finished from the footage. Well, not finished, but like close enough to done. Like the open world, the rendering, the menu UI, it looks done, which is scary. And it looks very similar to the Arkham games, which you would get with the overlay and the characters, obviously, in Gotham. But then the biggest talk from all these leaks, like video footage being shown off, is that the Nemesis system would have been in play here before it eventually ended up being in what made Shadow of Mordor so good. And because Batman doesn't kill anyone, the Nemesis system would have played such an important part in this game. Like, you let a villain off because you've like strung him up, or you've rang the Gotham PD, or he's escaped again, and he hunts you back down, and he's like more angry and more pissed off at you every encounter. And that's kind of how the Batman villains work, right? Just the longer he doesn't kill them, the more prolific they become.
It works so well because it's like, like they get beat, so like they inject some like venom into themselves, and then they come back with
more like it would be so good.
It makes itself, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, and all the combat mechanics work, and the Shadow of Mordor combat was super fun. Obviously, you'd have to tweak elements. Richie wants an ice cream still, but all I can think is I'm not sure when Warner Brothers acquired Monolith, so I'm thinking maybe they will work, because remember we got a Batman Begins movie tie-in game for the Nolan movies, so all I can think is this was maybe supposed to tie in with the Dark Knight potentially, and then WB acquired Monolith and they're like, we kind of can't have 2 Batman games on the go, so can it? Yeah. What other IP have we got? Lord of the Rings. You go work on this other franchise, and I think that's maybe what happened, but I'd have to look at the timelines and do a bit more research. But it is such a shame when you see this kind of thing and be like, we could have had the Nemesis system in a Batman game. I think in the wake of Suicide Squad and Gotham Knights as well, it's just looking back thinking like, we could have just had another great Batman game, but we had to wait 10 years for those 2 disappointments. But you know what? We got the Middle-earth Shadow of games out of them, and they're both terrific, and I would kill for a sequel, a third entry now. But this team's now, 5 years deep on a Wonder Woman game, so maybe we see some pieces picked up from this put into the DC universe on that front. But
I would very much love that.
It was 2004 that got acquired, and Shadow of Mordor, for context, came out in 2014. So they were well under WB by the time they were working on this.
Right.
Yeah. Fair enough. Last couple of stories. Richie, do you want to dust off your Luna game subscription for Luna Plus? Are you going to do it?
You know what? There's some good games coming, but I don't think I'm going to be doing that just yet.
Oh, you don't want to play Lego Indiana Jones or Pirates of the Caribbean on Luna? Because they're coming.
I think these would be fun games to play. And if I had nothing else to play right now, I'd be interested. I'm not fully said. I'm not at the point where I'm going, never touching Luna again, ever, because that's just pointless. I've still got my controller. I still have an account. I just would have to just activate it. But there's just other stuff taking my interest. Lego games are always fun, from what I hear. I've never really got into any of them.
You know what the craziest thing about this is? And the thing that caught me off guard is it's great that Amazon Luna's getting newer games. It's great they're in the cloud. These are PlayStation 2 era games, so I don't think they're available to play on current platforms. So that means that there's some behind the scenes stuff that's going on here, because I just think undoubtedly that's 2 huge franchises which already have a big pull. I think this was possibly the only place you might be able to play them in the cloud on a subscription model. I'm not sure, but I just think they're an odd couple to pluck out of the history books, but they're a good one for preservation and like again, it's better than 2 random shitty indie games, right, that no one cares anything about. But you've got the parts, like, again, 2 huge IP. So did make me like kind of prick up my ears a little bit with this one, but not enough to get me subscribed to Luna Plus, however.
Yeah.
No, that's
they're both on Steam. I don't know if you can access them via GeForce now. Let us know in the comments. But yeah.
I mean, the 4 people who have a Luna Plus subscription, enjoy those games. Coming to you. Final story. We're going to talk about Rockstar. I didn't actually know this existed, but apparently GTA Plus is a subscription service from
It's a thing,
Rockstar.
yeah.
I did not know this existed at all. For the uninitiated like me, it's essentially you get, I think, like £1 million in game for like, I think it's like $6 a month or something like that. Primarily focused on the GTA kind of franchise, but you also get like a smattering of games from the back catalogue. So I think currently there's the GTA trilogy, Red Dead Redemption. It's like you get like Chinatown Wars and a couple of more.
Yeah, we covered some of the newer ones. I think, was it last week, Chris? On the
Yeah,
podcast?
literally as of last week, Red Dead was added, and that was what made us go like, well, actually, that's not a GTA game. Why is that under a GTA banner? And then seemingly the news this week is like, oh, they're expanding beyond GTA.
Yeah, so it looks like we're getting Bully and LA Noire from Rockstar as part of this service. And like me personally, I loved Bully. Like, that was a fantastic game, and I was really disappointed they weren't going to make a second. And LA Noire, I think, has probably aged poorly since I first played it. But I remember when that game came out, and it was like 4 or 5 discs
the motion cap in that game was amazing for the time.
Yeah,
it's probably feels dated now, but I think it's one of them. It's an important game in video game history for the technology that went into it.
100%. So both those games are coming to the GTA Plus subscription, and you can't ignore the elephant in the room where there's perhaps like a rebranding coming of this service very soon, right? Like, let's be real.
Sure.
Are we going to see Rockstar Plus soon?
I'm not sure. I think they'll stay as GTA Plus because I think Grand Theft Auto is more marketable. Grand Theft Auto is more marketable than Rockstar.
I think it is, but I think just from a synergy point of view,
Rockstar Plus makes more sense, but it's just a marketing decision.
I think the more they add to it, I think it just becomes the elephant in the room where, like, if they're planning on adding like the new Max Payne remasters in there as well, I could see a switch. But like you said, we cannot deny the allure of GTA. Grand Theft Auto going on to that.
It depends how they see it. If they see this as a case of, you get GTA Plus for when you're playing GTA Online, and we'll throw you a few extra bones in there occasionally, or do they see this as like a unified set, like game, like service to access like a Ubisoft Plus?
Yeah,
I think it comes down to how Rockstar see it and what they want to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, outside of like for publisher-specific platforms, I think this is the only one which is turned my head in terms of like something I'd be willing to spend money on. So
I have a lot of praise for Ubisoft Plus for what it does.
Yeah, but I just don't like Ubisoft games.
I give it a solid 8, Richie.
Yeah.
Solid 8, yeah.
But that's all we have time for this week. As you know, we normally do the this week in video gaming history. This week there ain't a lot, to be honest. Some Garfield.
Don't diss Garfield.
Some Garfield shit coming out.
Like, is there anything good which either you saw? I don't think there is.
Actually, I'm going to use it as another opportunity to shit all over Traveller's Tales. Lego The Hobbit came out 10 years ago today, and they never finished that game. I tweet at them constantly whenever they talk about, here's our new Lego game. It came out on 3DS, PC, PlayStation 3, 4, Vita, Xbox 360, and Xbox One, and it didn't fully come out. They brought out the first movie in it, including the game. The second movie, they went early to market capitalise, and their promise was the DLC will be the final movie, The Battle of the Farm Armies, and those fuckers dropped the ball, never brought it out, and that game is incomplete to this day. 10 years on, still not finished. So Lego Traveller's Tales, sort your shit out, give us a Middle-earth collection like you did with the Skywalker saga, and fix this wrongdoing that happened 10 years ago on this day.
They might not even have the IP anymore. They might not be.
It's Warner Brothers. It's all Warner Brothers. So the movie rights are kept
Chris
within.
At this stage. Chris is irrationally angry about this. There's no way he's going to rationally think, they don't have the rights to it.
Right. Here's what you do, Traveller's Tales. Just abandon what you've already done and do a Lego Hobbit, but based on the books, not the films. The book's way better.
It's incomplete. No, that one's not. That's the Lord of the Rings. That one's actually finished, yeah. The Hobbit is incomplete. As much as we want to forget the movies and move on, the game is incomplete. So yes, I will not rest until this disservice has been remedied.
Good luck with that.
Good for you, Chris.
It's missing a few bricks.
I, for one, will be resting until this time next week when we bring you another episode of the GamerGuildTV podcast. Thank you all for listening very, very much and your continued support. It's always appreciated.
There it is! Piece of
He's
shit.
found it, guys. He's found it.
Look for the change.org petition to come from in the Discord server, which you should join if you're not already in it, okay? So, with that said, my name's been Rob.
I've been Chris.
I've been Richie.
Thank you very, very much for listening. Apart from you, Traveller's Tales. Fuck you.